Hello, everybody. This is Renault, and today I am doing a continuation on what I mentioned earlier about Scott Kurtz, the disgusting blob monster. Now, earlier, I talked about how this is going to be kind of like a multi-part series because there are a ton of skeletons in his closet, and it just wasn't enough to go over it in just one video, and so that's why I'm going over it now. Now, just as a previous recap, in case you missed it, I talked about Scott Kurtz and how he was a huge, both metaphorically and literally, a figure in the webcomic scene in the early and mid and late 2000s. Ever since 2010 or so, that whole genre kind of just started dying off, and Scott Kurtz has been increasingly irrelevant to the overall geek culture scene. Lately, starting in late 2019 and going on to this year, he's been sticking his disgusting face out of his little hidey hole and sticking his nose into things that are literally none of his business. I earlier talked about how he was throwing Doug TenNapel under the bus with a 10 or 20 tweet long Twitter thread where he basically self-incriminates himself. Yeah, that's the phrase. He incriminates himself when he tries to say, when he tries to throw Doug TenNapel and Mike Nelson under the bus. Doug TenNapel being the most famous for creating the Earthworm Jim, and it being his brainchild, and Mike Nelson of the Mystery Science Theater fame. Mystery Science Theater 3000 fame, who also holds a blog. Now, earlier I also talked about how Scott Kurtz threw them both under the bus. Doug TenNapel got thrown off Mike Nelson's show just because Doug TenNapel is just kind of an odious person. And then he threw Mike Nelson under the bus because it's like, hey, you can't pretend you didn't know about Doug, while also revealing that he continued to associate with Doug for a long time, while Scott Kurtz revealed that he continued to associate with Doug and doing the exact same thing that Mike Nelson was doing. So you might be asking yourself, well, then why are you doing this second part of that little series if you didn't need to? Well, that's because there was just so much to cover when I was looking into Scott Kurtz, and I couldn't do it in one little video. Now, with that being said, I am now going into the second part. Now, the second part kind of reveals the why Scott Kurtz is sticking his nose in other people's business, trying to become relevant in the social media sphere. Basically, he's trying to become relevant in his new super woke culture. And so this will go into that. And so the reason why, by the way, Scott Kurtz, the disgusting blob monster, even knew Doug TenNapel was because of their collaboration on Ratfist, where he also met several other centrist and conservative individuals. Now, the reason why Scott Kurtz is sticking his nose into other people's business and coming out of his hidey hole is because, boom, it's about money, apparently. Now, Scott Kurtz has a Patreon. He uses it to fund a bunch of things, and it's just been on a steady decline since he's no longer relevant. People are not that interested in webcomics anymore. It just doesn't have that pizzazz. So if you look at it this way, wow. So his Patreon is at $605 a month with $244. Don't get me wrong, having $605 a month is fantastic, but it's a huge fall from where it was before, where it was almost at $5,000 per month, and he was living off of that. Now, the reason why I bring that up is because, to my knowledge and from what I can observe, Scott Kurtz has no other form of income. He created the PvP online and a bunch of other web properties, and so he's been kind of, you could say, living off the residuals of that, but whatever he has saved up and this $605 a month. Now, $605 a month for a Patreon is great if it's supplemental to your regular job or whatever. But Scott Kurtz is trying to live off of this. Now, you can't do anything in the United States trying to live off $605 a month. And by the way, I did try to record this exact same video last week, actually. And last week, it was actually at $618 per month. So he lost one or two backers in that time. So let's just go over this Patreon a little bit. PvP is a pop culture infused office comedy slice of life comic strip with the help of truly fantastic readership, has been published online daily for over 18 years. Written and illustrated by Scott Kurtz, the Eisner and Harvey Award-winning comic strip continues to be and will remain free to read every day at pvponline.com. I'm not going to go to that website because fuck Scott Kurtz is giving him any traffic. Over the years, PvP has grown from a one-person operation into a small business. We've been fortunate to have Dylan McConis join the writing team, Corey Cassoni, and Angie Kurtz come on to help run the business, and a host of creative freelancers to help with the websites, conventions, games, and any crazy ideas we come up with. Until now, PvP has been entirely supported by advertising and merchandise. But these sources of revenue exclude a large portion of our audience who are neither interested in viewing advertisements, nor do they want more stuff. Even though our stuff is the best stuff, and if you really love our stuff, there's a whole reward tier in which we will send you even more stuff. Patreon is a new tool that allows readers of PvP to become more than a fan. It allows you to become a patron of the comic. Patreon also provides PvP with a unique opportunity to give back to our most loyal readership with Patreon exclusive content, a fancy ad-free experience, I'm going to assume. Or he could have said, with Patreon exclusive content, ad-free without the fancy. I don't know. All those people that he has hired on, he didn't pay any of them to assist with writing. Actually, he did. He paid Carrie Cassani, Dylan McConis to help with the writing. So that's a pretty weak finish there, Scott Kurtz. But anyway, the point is, oh wow, his last update was June 5th? Hold on a minute. June 5th, May 25th, May 22nd, May 21st, May 20th, May 19th. So it looks like he was doing, holy crap, May 20th, and then going February 13th of 2020, April 7th, 2017. So he had this Patreon go for almost 3 years with no updates, or maybe because of how Patreon is set up, you don't see all the most recent updates. But if he went nearly 3 years without making any updates to his Patreon, then holy cow. Yeah, April 7th. Actually, that's racist. Oh, come on. This is a first. What is this? Is this for real? What the hell? Sorry, guys. This was clearly unanticipated. So anyway, the reason why he's lost so much support is because he hasn't been making his updates to his Patreon. Oh, it looks like I accidentally clicked on comments. That's why. But anyway, the point is, he was making somewhat routine updates. When did he first create this Patreon anyway? Let's take a look. Because, load more. How long? Sorry, like I said, I had this loaded earlier and none of this stuff was happening. Wait, June 25th, 2016. Is it not loading anymore? June June 25th. Okay, it's not loading up anymore. But anyway, as you can see, the point is his Patreon has been dwindling and losing support over the years. And that's just because I don't know what the content of his updates are, but he went through almost a 3-year period where it looks like he made no updates. And you can't live off of $600 a month. You just can't. So what has Scott Kurtz been living on? If PvP Online is pretty much his only intellectual property, grifting. He's been stealing money from people off of crowd funds and not fulfilling. That's what he's been living off of. Don't believe me? Take a look. So earlier, I looked up this Kickstarter. He was heavily involved with something called Toonhound Studios. He raised $34,016. That's a good chunk of money. But as you can see, when you get this many comments, something ain't right. And so let's just look at the most recent update, 29 days ago. Really, really long time since I commented here, and I've been back to even look at this site during this time. However, I just jumped over to PvP and looked at the comics, then switched to Table Titans. So that's another thing he's involved with. It's frustrating to see that not only has there been no new content there in months, but the latest comic put up is a personal call for people to pay them directly on the Patreon so that they can create a new book. I guess that is easier than having to deal with a group of Kickstarter backers that were promised a specific product. Instead, you can get a monthly fee out of people without any real need to give them anything. I was one of the $30 per month backs for Scott for almost 2 years and only got promised monthly things 3 times. I'd like to quote something here. The world doesn't owe you an audience. You owe the world a webcomic, and in return it may grant you an audience. You have to prove that you're a professional, talented, entertaining, and reliable in your updates. You have to create an implied or explicit contract with your readers. I will make an update schedule and I will stick to it. And being on time is not the only requirement. How to Make Webcomics by Brad Guigar, David Kellett, Chris Straub, and Scott Kurtz. Update your Patreon. Give the people what they've paid for, Scott, you piece of shit. So basically, what it turns out, Scott Kurtz promised to give people something. He didn't do it. He's a grifter, a thief, a crook. Well, I don't want to say crook, because that actually implies some explicit criminality. But he's a grifter. He steals money from people and doesn't give them what they've paid for. And like I said, this is the sort of thing you can expect when you've got 445 comments in your comment section. He raised this money, $34,016. Now, he didn't he didn't raise this money, $34,000, on April 29th. That's just the last time Scott updated it. When did he actually earn this money? Dun dun dun. 2 years ago. Scott Kurtz raised the $34,000 2 years ago, and 2 years later, he hasn't fulfilled. So what exactly was this Table Titans? Well, it's all this crap. I don't really care about it. It's not my scene. The point is, he stole the money. He promised something, and he didn't give it to... He didn't give the people what they paid for. But that's not the only thing. If you look over, you might see he raised this money under Toonhound Studios. Then he had another crowdfund under PvP Online. Now, under PvP Online, he raised over $100,000. As with all people who are grifters, when you don't fulfill, you get a whole bunch of comments. That's a sure sign that something ain't right. So PvP is his main baby. It's his big deal. He raised over $100,000. When did he raise this over $100,000? Again, this is the last update. He raised the money. When did he? When did this run? When did this run? Let's just check the updates. Showing 10 of 14. This project launched November 7th, 2018. So that's how long people have been waiting. Or that's actually when he started this. So Kickstarters run an explicit 30-day campaigns. So by December 7th, which is Pearl Harbor Day, that's when it closed. And so it's been about, I'd say, 2018, a year and a half since this thing's closed. He hasn't done what he's promised. Let's check out some of the comments. Can we get an official update on the campaign rather than second-hand comments? Since most of us complain via Twitter, Facebook, email, etc., directly to Scott for months, my guess is no. Hold on. One last thing I want to check on. Sorry about going back and forth. When was this supposed to fulfill? September of 2019. So he's about 9 months late. Just wanted to go over that. So he's about 9 months late so far. He raised over $100,000. He's not fulfilling, and people are complaining about it. Another 3 months, and silence is deafening. Since PvP is getting rebooted, any chance we can get one more book within the final 2 years? You can just go to his Kickstarter page. It's a bunch of angry comments from people who did not get what they've paid for. So this is how Scott Kurtz has been earning a living. He's been stealing money from people and then getting that ever dwindling Kickstarter, or not Kickstarter, Patreon money. Like I said, it was about $618 when I tried to do this video last week. It's down to $605. So yeah, he's losing money, he's losing some backers, and this is actually the why. This is the motive. This is why he's been sticking his nose in other people's business. He's trying to become relevant. He's trying to become get in people's radar again. But I have a feeling it's not going to work for him. And there's a couple of things I want to go over, and I guess I will reserve that for part 3 because this video is getting a little long. But there you go. Scott Kurtz is a grifter, and that's why he's been popping up out of nowhere and not minding his own business. Quite literally, not minding his own business. Hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Stay tuned for part 3. There is going to be a part 3, and it's going to be mostly about what people have said very recently and about some recent things. Alright, thanks. Bye-bye.